Today I'm going to talk about T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. The Wasteland is a poem written in 1922 by an American poet, T.S. Eliot. He was born in America in 1888 and died in England in 1969. He was one of popular modernist writers. The poem first appeared in the United Kingdom in the October issue of Eliot's The Criterion. The poem consists of 5 sections: the burial of the dead, a game of chess, the fire ceremony, death by water, and what the thunder said. Within each section, multiple speakers appear with a number of different scenes. For instance, in the first section, the burial of the dead, the speaker changes from plural we to a single speaker Marie and then to a person who is observing another scene. Speakers and scenes in the poem shift from one to another very quickly. So the poem jumps around from one scene to another so that the poem appears really fragmented. The first few readings of the poem can be very difficult for this reason. Readers cannot grab what is going on in the poem and they don't understand what the main plot is and where the poem is heading. This is called a literary technique of fragmentation. It is called a technique of fragmentation because the pieces in the poem seem shattered and disorganized, that it is hard for the readers to grab a full sense of them. This fragmentation technique is often used by modernist writers as it helps artists express a non-linear stream of man's consciousness. When we come to think about the way we contemplate, we do not think in order. We fall into a reminiscent moment and recall the past. When we look at trees, birds, or a wide ocean, sometimes we feel fear or joy because they remind us of some past experience. So in this sense, we do not think orderly and our head does not flow in linearity. Eliot's poem The Wasteland is also a collection of shattered pieces. The Wasteland does not show a linear pattern of narrative. It offers no particular storyline. For instance, one scene does not cause another scene to happen, nor does the second scene appear as a consequence to a former scene. It does not build a causal relationship between fragments. It is very hard to understand what is going on, just like how hard it is for us to understand what is going on in our heads. So, in a humanist sense, we can say that the poem is expressing the internal side of man, as the poem seems as dismantled as the inside of our heads. Personally, I always feel like my thoughts are disorganized, so it isn't really hard for me to understand why artists in the modern times started using this technique to demonstrate man's internal side aesthetically. So the most interesting point about the poem for me is that there still exist links between fragments. The fragments are still relevant to each other, and this link between fragments creates a sense of unity in the poem. For instance, all the fragments in the poem express the similar atmosphere of dry wasteland where there is no hope. Even Eliot's common use of water imagery in the poem may add some hope to the dry land. However, the water imagery ends up being used as a symbol of death, that this also adds up to the devastated mood of modern world. Readers encounter the same expression of the characters' faithless and worthless lives. In terms of elements that Eliot explores in the poem, such as religion, sex, and memories, Eliot depicts the rotten world of modernity in all the areas. Religious faith and value is lost, and sex is unproductive and meaningless. Sex is consumed only for a physical pleasure. Memories only stir up confusion. So, ironically, the more the poem gets fragmented, the stronger the poem attains a sense of unification and builds a link between fragments. This is possible because the mood of confusion and devastation is the way Eliot forms a sense of unity in the poem. Therefore, the more confusing the poem becomes, or the more confusing the poem comes across to readers, the readers get reminded more of the title of the poem, The Wasteland. As much as the fragments are trapped in having to express only the wasteland, readers are also trapped in the metaphysical order of wasteland. As a result, readers experience the isolation and devastation themselves and understand that there is an absence of communication in the poem, where scientific techniques develop and sex life becomes meaningless and there is no communication and understanding between people. Again, it is very interesting to see how Eliot builds an order using confusion. This is because it also insinuates that Eliot will not offer a salvation to hellish experience of the wasteland. By collecting people's moments of desolation, Eliot does not offer a salvation or an outlet from the hardship, but rather provides a vision for modern people that we all go through the same Dante's world. In the end, readers relate their difficulties of reading the poem to the hardships in their lives. They come to accept the difficulty as a universal truth. We all have moments of wasteland in our lives. According to Eliot, this is not just a problem of modernity, but it also occurred during ancient Greek myth and during Shakespearean time. Eliot alludes to stories of ancient Greek myth, which is called the mythical method. He shows that the spiritual truth and order of the wasteland transcends the temporal and spatial limits. With a kind of understanding, despite the fact that we cannot articulate our confusing thoughts, we can still have a compassion for others and overcome the hard times. However, it is important to know that this is not a saving from the pit of Dante's purgatory. We still have to acknowledge that our lives will be like living in a hell. However, it does give us a comfort in a sense that it is not only us, but also our ancestors and our descendants and all the humankind who have to go through the same truth in life. Thank you.